So today's chanting is of metta actually, no? So we'll do it at the end of meditation. Okay. Tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami. Let us practice metta and read this metta chant. Aham sukhito homi. May I be happy. Nidukho homi. May I be free from stress and pain. Avero homi. May I be free from animosity. Abhyapadya homi. May I be free from oppression. Aniko homi. May I be free from trouble. Sukhi artanam pariharami. May I look after myself with ease. Sarve satta sukhita hontu. May all living beings be happy. Sarve satta avera hontu. May all living beings be free from animosity. Sabbe satta abhyapadya hontu. May all living beings be free from oppression. Sabbe satta anivya hontu. May all living beings be free from trouble. Sabbe satta sukhi attanam pariharantu. May all living beings look after themselves with ease. Karuna. Sabbe satta sarva dukkha pamaccantu. May all living beings be freed from all stress and pain. Mudita. Sabbe satta ladda sampattito mavigaccantu. May all living beings not be deprived of the good fortune they have attained. Upekha. Sabbe satta kammasaka kammadayata kammayoni kammabandhu kammapatisarana. All living beings are the owners of their action, heir to their actions, born of their actions, related through their actions, and live dependent on their actions. Yang kamam karissanti kalyanam va papakam va tasya dayada bhavissanti. Whatever they do for good or for evil, to that will they fall heir. Sabbe satta sada hontu avera sukha jivino. May all living beings live happily, always free from animosity. Katham punya phalam mayam sabbe bhagi bhavantu te. May all share in the blessings springing from the good that I have done. So welcome to friends who are online. So there is.
So we have Deepthi and Shailesh online.
So we study the 8th Sutta, 4th chapter of Sutta Nipata, Pasura Sutta. Pasura is I've written down the brief story from the commentary. Great wandering philosopher who was excelling in giving debates and arguments. So he had made a tree branch as his staff, and wherever he would go, he would put the tree branch to challenge it. Let somebody come and debate with me and take this tree staff. So once, when he saw no rival, he came to Savatthi and he set up the staff at the city gate. And when Venerable Sariputta was going thereby, he asked somebody, "What is this?" And he told him that it is the challenge to anybody who can discuss things, Dhamma with him. So he asked the boys to break that. And he said, "Okay, let's have a discussion with him." So in presence of a huge audience, Pasura was defeated, and therefore he became a monk then. And under one of the Theras, Thera Laludai, and his main objective was to learn the art of arguing. Why did he lose to Sariputta? So he learned that art, and in the art he was able to successfully dispute with his own preceptor. So he thought that I have really become very good, and he said, "Okay, now let's go and challenge the Buddha himself. Why not?" So he goes and says, now when he goes there, and his story says that a Devta was residing in Jetwana, he just muted him. So he couldn't speak. So the whole spectators that come there, they said, "Bolo, kuch speak, speak." He just couldn't speak anything. They shouted at him, and then the Blessed Ones said, "What will he say?" And then spoke this sutta in order to dispel his attachment to discussions and thinking that these discussions themselves will lead to purity of the mind. Because that was the perception that through intellectual arguments they will be able to attain the liberation. That is the background of the sutta.
So that's how there were parallel views that intellectual argument या वो जो ceremonies वगैरह हैं, they will lead to enlightenment, or so there were several streams.
There were so many views at that time, and even today there are so many views. Believe that broadly two streams are identified, Brahmanical and Shamana stream. So Brahmanical stream is generally identified with seeking intervention of a divine agency in liberation from suffering. So devotion and prayer and surrender, various kinds. So most of the religious traditions fall in that category of intervention of a god or a Allah or whatever. The other was through samana, through shram, through effort of self-purification, you will be able to achieve the.
So when I hear some of these people, especially the Vedantic gurus, they try to describe it as a path of seeking rather than path of divine intervention.
Yeah. Advaita is different. There it can be easily confused with intellectual discussions, but if you actually see deeply, they're actually doing inquiry into the nature of self, which is the Anatta Lakhana Sutta. They're actually doing that in a different manner. But then they come to the kind of terminology they use, creates confusion. That is a real challenge, to be able to discard the terminology and see the practice. That is quite a challenge for most of us. It remains still a challenge, because the word terminology they use of I am that, I am self, that can create a misunderstanding if you're not really penetrating into what they are really doing.
दरअसल जो आपने
Interestingly, even at the time of Adi Shankaracharya, there was a counter teacher of a very pronounced Ramanujacharya. If you study the spiritual history of India, around the same time was Ramanujacharya, who advocated devotion and prayer and God, and I very strongly criticized Adi Shankaracharya for introducing crypto-Buddhism and Indian philosophy and things. So this has always been and later it led to even violence between various traditions. So I'll start. Idheva suddhi iti vadayanti nanyeshu dhammesu visuddhimahu yam nisitta tatha suham vadana pacheka सच्चेसु पुथु निविट्ठा इध शुद्धि तिवादयंती. यहीं पे शुद्धि है वो ये कहते हैं. नान्येषु धम्मेषु विशुद्धि माहु. और किसी डॉक्ट्राइन में कोई शुद्धि नहीं है. मतलब पीपल से दैट दिस माय डॉक्ट्राइन इज द वन व्हिच इज प्योर. यम निसित्ता तथा शुभम वदाना. एंड टू व्हाट दे आर निश्चित, जिस पे वो डिपेंडेंट है, टू व्हिच दे आर डिवोटेड, दैट दे कॉल इज शुभ, दैट इज गुड. Pacheka sacchesu puthu nivittha. And as a result, different people have different viewpoints. They have different things as true.
Tevad kama parisan vigaya balam dahanti mithu anyamanyan vadanti te anyasita kathojajam पसंग सकामा कुशला वदाना.
ते वाद कामा. वाद का मतलब जो वाद में उनकी इच्छा है. परिश्रम विगाया, परिषद में जाके बालम दहंती मिथु अन्य मन्यम. तो एक दूसरे के साथ लाइक फूल्स, दे एक दूसरे को फूल बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं. दे हैविंग गॉन इनटू असेंबली, दे ट्राई टू प्रूव दैट द अदर पर्सन इज अ फूल. Vadanti te anyasita kathojam. They go to others and then pick up a quarrel, in that kind of dispute or something. Why do they do it? Pashansa kama kusala vadama. Pashansa अपने लिए, because their उनकी इच्छा है कि उनकी हमारी प्रशंसा हो ना. They wish for praise for themselves and kusala vadama, and call themselves the only expert. It's just laying the ground for what exactly is be happening in these things. Disputes.
So this tradition is not there any longer now.
Debates
I don't know. Maybe in these Shankaracharyas that may be happening. I don't know really. But it's not apparent.
और तो उस समय पे क्या होता था? What was the nature?
People used to have debate. They used to challenge each other. Even Adi Shankaracharya challenged the extant Buddhists at that time and defeated them. They couldn't stand against his arguments. This issue of if there is no, anatta is treated as no self, there is no one, then who is getting liberated and who is getting enlightened? And probably at that time people were not able to respond properly.
But I'm not following. So debate ka kya hai? So the thing was that
this is right and you are following a wrong path. So come to my path. So you then become his follower. That was the idea.
और ये फॉलोअर वाला तो वहाँ काफी था. इवन आई वाज रीडिंग दिस जो आपने दी थी डिसाइपल्स ऑफ बुद्धा, उसमें भी बहुत है ये. That there were many sort of leading teachers who had legions of followers.
युवोत्थो कथ्ययम् परिसाय मध्ये पसम समिच्छम विनिगति होती अपाहतासिम पना मंकु होती नित्याया सुकुपति रंधम वृद्धिमसी।
युक्तो कथायं परिसाय मध्य, परिसाय मध्य परिषद के बीच में, इन द मिडस्ट ऑफ द असेंबली दे एंगेज इन डिस्प्यूट। प्रशंसा इच्छम, इच्छा तो उनकी प्रशंसा की है, बट विनिघाति होती, दैट गेट्स फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. So engaged in dispute in the midst of assembly, their quest for praise gets frustrated, and then apahatam sim panamanku hoti, and in defeat one becomes downcast. Anku means he becomes depressed. Nindaya so kuppati randhamesi, and then दूसरे लोग निंदा करते हैं, and then people find flaws in them, and they then become enraged, they become very angry as a result of that. Kuppati uba, कुपित हो जाते हैं because of the criticism.
Namasadam parihiman apahadam panha imam saki paridevati supati inu vado ubaccha manti anupunnati.
यमस्य वादम परिहीनम आहु, यमस्य जिसकी बात को परिहीन, मतलब उसको कहा कि गलती निकाल दी गई, कहा गया कि ये गलती है. अपाहतम पन्हा विमंसका से, so then having been defeated, he in the questioning, Panha was in the questions, so tested his questions and find out the fault, and then he paridevati sochati hinavado, and then he laments and wails, and in such hinavado means in such low disputes, upacchaga manti anuttani, and saying that he has defeated me. So because those who have tested his questions say that his talk is faulty, then he find out his mistakes, then he laments and grieves and wails, and saying he has defeated me. So he's pointing out the outcome of the of such disputes.
एते विवाद सम्मनेषु जाता एतेषु उग्घति निघ्घति होति एतंपि दिस्वा विरामे कथुजम न हन्यदथ अथि पसामा लाभः.
एते विवादा समनेषु जाता, इस तरह के विवाद शमनों में भी पैदा हो गए हैं. He's pointing out that even among Shamanas such disputes have arisen. Etesu ughati nighati hoti, and in them there is somebody wins, somebody is defeated. Etampi disva virame kathojam, इसको देख के विराम करो, stop it. Having seen this, you stop this disputation. Nahanya adatha ati pasansa labha, there's no other advantage, अन्य कोई इसका लाभ नहीं है except pasansa labha, that you get some praise. There's no other advantage of all such things.
थोड़ी देर पहले सारी सत्ता ने उनको डिफीट किया था.
लेकिन ये डिबेट क्यों हो रही है, उससे क्या उनको
बताएं, वो उनका टेंडेंसी थी कि बताने की, आई मीन इट कुड बी विद ए पॉजिटिव मोटिव कि भाई आप गलत रास्ते चल रहे हो, मेरा रास्ता ठीक है. But most of the time it was to show their intellectual superiority and to put down the others and make them followers. Basically तो ये टेंडेंसी थी उस समय कि अपने जो, अगर मैं आपको डिफीट में हरा दूंगा तो आप मेरे शिष्य बन जाओगे. That was the understanding. And in Buddha it happened with many people. कई लोग आते थे भगवान से डिस्प्यूट करने, and then they would feel कि they would lose their discussion, and then they would become monk. And this we have seen in so many discourses of the Buddha also. No? So many people used to come and dispute with him, question his path, and then they would understand, and then they would praise and become his disciples. तो वो ट्रेडिशन चला आ रहा था.
तो सर हमारी सारी वेदांतिक बहुत सारी स्टोरीज में भी वाद विवाद है. पीपल यूज्ड टू,
लेकिन वाद विवाद करते क्यों है, मतलब उसका मकसद ये है कि अपना ईगो मैं ज्यादा जानता हूँ.
It could be that also, but ये भी हो सकता है कि दूसरा गलत रास्ते चल रहा है और उसको आप ठीक समझे रास्ते जा रहे हो, ये भी हो सकता है.
ऐसा तो थोड़ा स्ट्रेच हो गया वैसे करुणा. ये तो थोड़ा स्ट्रेच हो गया करुणा का, ये थोड़ा
करुणा का
कहीं दरअसल ये इम्प्लाई कर रहे हैं ना कि उसको करुणा है.
नहीं, अब आप if you, yeah maybe But I'm saying that if you see the way the Buddha answered the questions of others, that could also be seen as a dispute. We could have said, no, don't answer the question.
Asking question is different from a debate, na?
It's not a formal debate, but there are some people who came to him for debating. And he would put them aside in a very wise manner. Point out to them that this debate se kuch nahi hone wala. Neither this extreme nor that extreme. Some middle path is there. You would ask him, is there self? Is there no self? It's a debate. And he would just give, in one of the questions, he just kept quiet. Didn't reply. So, and then in another case, another person came and he said, if you don't know, tell plainly you don't know. See, so the person is debating with him. And then he answers that this is one extreme, this is another extreme, this is the middle path of Paticca Samutpada, and he explains to them. So, it depends on the volition of the person. If person is a pure volition, he has come to debate and he feels, oh, I am wrong, he becomes a disciple. So many of them became disciples because of that reason.
लेकिन दोनों एक्सट्रीम में कोई गया है कभी?
जी,
मतलब दोनों एक्सट्रीम से मिडिल पाथ को छोड़ के?
हाँ, सारे जाते ही रहे, हम भी जाते ही रहते हैं।
वो ज़्यादा अलग बात है।
हम तो जाते ही रहते हैं एक्सट्रीम में ना। एक एक्सट्रीम, वन एक्सट्रीम ऑफ एक्सेसिव, जो फर्स्ट पहला वो है भगवान का डिस्कोर्स है ना, एसेटिसिज्म का एक्सट्रीम,
ठीक बात,
एंजॉयमेंट का एक्सट्रीम, उसका मिडिल पाथ, या ब्लाइंड डिवोशन, नो डिवोशन व्हाटसोएवर, मिडिल पाथ, isn't it? Shraddha is a factor of power of on the path. हम श्रद्धा को उस सेंस में लेके छोड़ ही दिया, ये तो सब बकवास है, डिवोशन बिल्कुल बकवास है, चैंटिंग सब बकवास है. That's another extreme, no? It has to be seen in its proper perspective. So we have ourselves gone through such extremes of.
So devotion की extreme here, that's not that you give it, assign it to some god or some other.
Yeah, and self effort ही खत्म कर दिया. Extreme में तो ये होता है ना.
कीर्तन वीर्तन माता की चौकी is also some effort is there. ऐसा
by effort I mean effort in purifying. Of course, effort in organizing तो है ही. That is true. That is true.
भक्ति कहते हैं ना इसको.
वो भक्ति मार्ग मानते हैं ना उसको.
But you see, if even that can, if you read Ramakrishna Paramahansa's life, he was just a priest in a temple, but he took it so seriously. So it's a question of whether you're really ripe to take this whatever you're doing seriously. If you're ripe, you can see meaning even in that. He was a priest. He was appointed as a priest. As a child, young child, he became a priest in the Kali temple. वहाँ की रानी ने उसको priest बना दिया था. But he got so deeply absorbed in it, he attained the deepest samadhis, and then he found some teacher who took him to ability to see through the absorption in a form, and took him to formless absorption and all. So if you read that story of his life, you find that. So let's not put down anything.
तो माता की चौकी में
Let's not put down anything.
नहीं, भक्ति मार्ग से भी क्या कोई किसी ने निर्वाण प्राप्त किया?
वही तो बता.
वो तो बता दे ना. It can be a means, definitely.
मीरा का भी
Yeah, it can be a means to that.
Means मतलब वैसे
वो हमारा वही है ना, जो भगवान ने पहली शब्द कही है ना, they maintain purity is here alone. This is true of us also. हमारी भी ये प्रॉब्लम है. Without seeing what others are doing, because you can't just by reading in a book figure out what he is saying. So it's not possible. Unless you follow that path to a great extent, then only you can comment. How can we comment on others?
It's So we also suffer from the same.
Yeah. In fact, we suffer much more. ये superiority complex तो साधकों में बहुत ज़्यादा आ जाता है. We suffer hugely.
प्रशंसितो व पन तत्व होती अखाय वादम परिसाय मज्जे सो हस्त सती पुण्यमति च ते पपुण्य तमत्थम यथा मनु आहुः
प्रशंसितो वा पर तथा होती. So जब मन is praised, प्रशंसा जब होती है उसकी, अखाय वादम परिसाय मज्जे, in midst of a big assembly, when he is able to defend his views and he is so happy, so hassati unmata hoti, he becomes so joyful and becomes elated. Unmat actually is also meaning mad. He becomes joyous and becomes haughty. Papuya tamatham yatho manuahu, because he has won the case according to his heart's desire. जो उसके मन की इच्छा वो पूरी हो गई, so he gets carried away with that. Next.
या उन्नति ससा विगत भूमि मनाति मनम पदाते पनेसो इतापि जिस्वा न विवादत्यथ नाहि तेना सुधिं कुशला वदन्ति.
या उन्नति सास विगात भूमि, जो यही जो ऊपर की बताएगी ना, ये ऊपर वाली जो उन्नति है, द जॉय विच यू गेट, सास विघात वही डाउनफॉल का कारण बन जाती है. द जॉय विच यू गेट ऑन विनिंग एन आर्ग्यूमेंट बिकम्स द कॉज ऑफ डाउनफॉल. मान अतिमानम वदति पनेसो, बिकॉज ही देन टॉक्स विद प्राइड एंड ग्रेट haughtiness, arrogance. Etam pidisva na vivadeyatha. Having seen this, don't get into disputes like that, arguments. Nahi tena suddhim kusala vadanti. The wise people say that this does not lead to purification in any way. Suro yatha rajakhaddo puttho abhigajammati patisuram येनेव सोतेन पले हि सूरा पुब्बेव नत्थि यदिदम युद्धाय. सूरो शूरवीर जो है ना, like a hero, Rajakhada Putto, who has been made strong by a very good food, abhigga jameti patisuram ichcham. He goes around looking for a rival कि मैं किससे झगड़ा करूँ, जैसे a big brave person does it. Yeneva sotena padehi sura. Wherever you find such a hero, you go there. Pubbheva nathi yadidam yuddhaya. But here there is nothing left as before with whom could provoke a fight. So he is now telling to Pasura that if you find somebody who is very valiant, you go and fight there. Here there is no one to fight with you. Here there is nothing left as before which could provoke a fight. I don't provoke a fight in anyone. Ye ditti mugghaya vivadayanti idameva sacchanti cha vadayanti te tvam vadasu nahi te datti vadami jate patisenikata. Ye ditti mugghaya, those who have embrace certain philosophical view, vivadayanti, they get into disputes. And idameva sacchanti che vadayanti, and they say this is only true, what I am saying is the only true. Te tvam vadesu, you go and talk to them. Nahi te datti, not, but there is no here. Vadam hi jate patisenikata. There is nobody here who is opposing and battle with you. If you want to battle, you go there. Visenikatva panacha pacharanti. Ditthim avirujyamana तेषु त्वं किं लभेतु पशुरा ये सेधा नत्थि परम गह्यतम। विषेनिकत्वा, जिन्होंने वो विष निकाल लिया, those who have taken out the defilements, those who have panache charanti, and then those who move, having removed the defilements, they tim avirujjamana. They don't catch hold of any point of view, one theory or another theory. Tesu tvam kim labhetu pasura. Oh Pasura, what will you get from them, those who have destroyed them? Yesi the natti param muggahitam. For who don't hold on to anything as the highest. So such people who don't hold on to anything as the highest, what will you get by arguing with them? Athatvam pavitta kammagga gama manasa ditti gatani chintayanto dhonena yugam samas gama sam agama nahitvam sakhasi sampayate viti sampayata veti. Athatvam pavitta kama agama. Here you have come, manasa ditti gatani chintayanto. In your mind you have been thinking about various philosophical views, various dittis, and you have come here with the idea of reflecting that you will get victorious. Dhonena yugam samagama nahitvam sakhasi sampayateti. So you are not able to even move one step further in this direction, because you cannot get into the same frame as a dhonena yugam, one who is really purified. So what he's pointing out is, you cannot go along even a single step towards your objective when you are interacting with a person who is completely purified, because you won't get into your direction of movement. Pasura Suttam Achatam Littitam. This is the 8th Sutta is ended. So the purified one is not willing to get into arguments.
So Sudhakar is saying, thanks for selecting this sutta for reading. Isn't Ekanyo Maggo such a philosophical view?
Ekayano Maggo is actually, there is a lot of difficulty about translation actually in Pali,
इसका background बता दीजिए.
एकायनो मग्गो जो है ना, भगवान कहते हैं सतीपट्ठान सुत्तों में, एकायनो अयम मग्गो, that this is, now that has been translated as this is the only path. Now this has been translated as the only path only by respected Goenka ji, not by anybody else. If you read all other translations, any translation, they all translate it as the direct path. एक आयन जिसका एक ही स्टेप है, आयन का मतलब होता है स्टेप, जैसे व्हीकल्स होती है ना. सो पहले वो एग्जांपल दी जाती थी दैट अ पर्सन यूज्ड टू ट्रैवल ओवर लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस, तो वो राजा जो है एक चैरियट में जाएगा, फिर उसको छोड़ देगा क्योंकि घोड़े थक गए, फिर दूसरी में जाएगा, तो उनको आयन कहते थे. So एक आयन means just one way, it will go direct, it will take you directly, you don't have to get down and take another path and get down and take another path. So all people have translated ekayano as the direct path. So this is a difficulty in translation. So I've seen through so many ones, and everywhere it is translated as the direct path.
But Darshan, is there Sutta reference for the Buddha actually admitting that there are other ways than this path?
No, he says there is no other enlightened being outside the teaching of Buddha. But what is the teaching of Buddha? Shil, Samadhi and Prajna. So anybody who follows Shila, anybody who follows Samadhi, anybody who follows Prajna is following the teaching of Buddha. So there is an example of a woman, old woman going to him, so many teachers come here and then this is the teaching. Even your disciples come and say this is the teaching of Buddha. Somebody comes, this is the teaching of Buddha. How do I find out? It says, if anybody teaches dispassion, know this to be teaching of Buddha. If anybody teaches purity of mind, know this to be teaching of Buddha. If anybody teaches egolessness, this is the teaching of Buddha. That's it. That is what is meant by outside Buddha. It does not mean that they have to be in this very particular tradition and then they will be following the teaching of Buddha. That has to be seen in its entire. You read this, he's saying that the people who say this is the only truth are wrong. He's saying it so many times. So, if you follow, of course, one has to be clear. One has to follow the path of Sheela. You can't say that oh, Sheel is not. If anybody says Sheel zaruri nahi hai, wo to chhod do. Then obviously he is not following the path of the correct path, as laid down by the Buddha. So Buddha's path does not mean path. The talk given by Siddhartha Gautama. He said he has discovered the path. He has not laid down the path, and the path is purity. Path is that of following the moral precepts. Path is that of developing concentration of mind and the right concentration. Path is that of developing panya, wisdom, seeing through the delusion of personality. That is the wisdom. So anybody who sees through that is following the path of Buddha. Whether you call it this, Vedanta or that or this or that, that's it. If he is doing it. If he is not doing it, if he is getting hold of something, then obviously he is getting into trouble. He is stopping in between. Isn't it? So we don't know what do they mean when somebody says self or I. We don't know. Normal connotation to yahi hogi, I ka matlab main. And therefore you can misunderstand it. And maybe the one who says I am that may be having a misunderstanding. Maybe. But maybe he is not. How do we know? We can't. So let's not judge people. Let's be clear what exactly we want to, what the Buddha taught. About that there is no doubt, at least in our minds. And this is what really leads to. So wherever there is an echo of that kind, why not? That's fine. So that's the way I look at it really. That's why I have been telling Rajesh also. I find this I am that a bit confusing. It can be very easily misunderstood. That's why I prefer there is that is better. There is that, of course there is that. Existence is not... when Buddha talks of emptiness, he really, there's a beautiful small sutta where Ananda asks him, you keep on saying emptiness. What is this emptiness? Saaf batao. This emptiness means empty of ego. That's it. It does not mean that everything is finished, there is nothing in it.
It's not absolute zero.
It's not zero. It is no. It's not nothing. It's no thing. वो अंग्रेजी भाषा की limitation है ना. But fortunately it is possible. Rather than saying nothingness, it should say no thingness with a dash in between. There is no thing. You call space as an element. Well, what is space? It's not a thing. Now, one has to have that open mind to see the...
नहीं पर देखते हैं स्पेस को तो क्या कहेंगे, मतलब स्पेस है, देखते हैं.
It is seen as an element. जैसे धातुओं में 4 धातु में 5 भी कई 6 भी कई हैं.
पदार्थ तो है ना.
So but it's not a thing, na? It's not something which you can weigh. कितने किलो
पदार्थ कहते हैं.
यही दिक्कत है ना, वो भाषा की बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है ना. भाषा की ट्रांसलेशन की बहुत दिक्कत है, उसमें बहुत गड़बड़ हो जाती है. फिर you get into what a person is saying and what words he uses and how we interpret them. Communication वही problem हो जाती है ना. The words which I use, I may have some other interpretation in my mind, but you may interpret it in a different way, and there will be miscommunication. So, therefore, it's better not to judge. That's why I feel it.
Including Mata ki chauki. So I should stop joking about Mata ki chauki.
Say it again.
I should stop joking about Mata ki chauki.
Yeah, yes.
उसमें कुछ element of वो है.
हो सकता है ना, क्या मालूम.
No, I'm saying when I joke about it, there is some element.
There is an element of ego involved, na. Superiority complex है ना.
Superiority complex or that my views are right and
theirs we are wrong because we don't know what they are doing here. I mean, apparently it's not. It doesn't sound much convincing to me. Fine, that's okay. It used to sound convincing to me sometime. Now it does not. Fine, that's okay.
किसी की शुरुआत ऐसी
हाँ।
होती है ना,
अब आप
मतलब किसी
इतने
जैसे
स्वामियों
आपने
से मिले
बताया-
हम, एक स्वामी सनातन से मिले थे ना. See the difference.
जैसे आपने बोला पुजारी थे रमन कौन,
हाँ
पुजारी से बन गए तो उनको मतलब माता की चौकी से भी तो आगे ऐसे
हाँ, उसी के सिर्फ वो वहीं पे पूजा ही तो करते थे. He was appointed as a formally as a priest by a queen of that who was whose temple it was. That's okay. Anything else? Any other question? So did I answer it, Sudhakar?
Actually, sir, the question was from Silesh.
Silesh.
The first part was from Sudhakar. Thanks for selecting the Sutta for reading.
So let's now go to the long pending